So when I concluded my Kobra 3 review almost a year ago, I said I hoped Anycubic would support that machine for a good amount of time before following the trend of just releasing a new printer every year. So I guess in lieu of releasing a Kobra 4 just 12 months after the last, their latest iteration is the Kobra 3 V2. So I wanted to come into this saying, well played Anycubic for skirting around that naming convention and just giving us a new printer anyway. But what they've changed here, well, it's interesting when we break down their comparison images. So let's get on with it. Hi, Ross, FauxHammer videos, you probably knew that. Let's move on. So before we begin, I think a few people will have seen my previous Kobra 3 combo review. If you haven't, it's worth a watch as this will serve more as an update from that. But to crack straight on with what's changed in this new version before I cover the features, I'll introduce this infographic from Anycubic. The Y-axis has been widened. Okay, great, we've got some increased stability here. Fantastic. It's got upgraded SG15 bearings. Now, we don't know how. Are they upgraded to better material? Have they changed the positioning for tighter tolerances? Or have they just added more lubrication? We don't know. And they've also now added the flagship nozzle technology. Basically, it's using the same nozzle that they use on the Kobra S1. And I don't mind this, I actually like it in a way. A consistent set of hardware across their range is helpful. It's especially helpful that the nozzle can be removed by just a clip and 2 cables. Yeah, it's not the easiest on the market, but still it's incredibly handy. But now they've also advised a bigger print space, now at 255 by 255 by 260 millimeters, which is a small improvement for the previous Kobra's 250 by 250 area, but the original Kobra can also benefit from this with a firmware update, so it's a cool thing, it's just no longer an advertisable difference. And yeah, you get the camera as standard now, but just to be aware, you do still need to 3D print the casing for it and assemble it yourself. And the files for this come on the printer ready to go in PLA. But as I said in my last review, I don't really mind this. It is a cute way to get you integrated with your machine. It's just unfortunate that the camera image quality still isn't great. And still, almost a year after release, I can't figure out for the life of me how to generate time-lapse footage, despite turning it on in both the slicer and trying to turn it on in the UI. And yes, I tried with the USB drive in so that it had somewhere to save the files to. So this is a question to the audience, please. If you know how to get this working, tell me in the comments, because it will help me and others who read the comments for answers. But it's still a handy device because you can use the Anycubic app to check on the progress of prints remotely and you can see them visually too. But moving on, whilst this infographic and the website say it comes ready to go for up to 8 colours, which suggests to me you'll have the ability to connect 2 Ace Pros as a standard feature, as they put it, my single combo only came with the 4-colour hub, so I expect the larger connector is actually only available when you order the 8-colour combo. It would have been nice if that was a bit clearer. So it's that, or they made a mistake on mine. So again, please let me know what you ordered and what you ended up getting. I've kind of got this thing with Anycubic that things aren't always 100% clear. It could have been a mistake, it could be a misleading thing on the website. Those things are par for the course with this brand. But anyway, those are the differences. So it's not a new printer, it is an upgraded Kobra 3. So yeah, the name is rather apt. I'm just curious how many people will see this as an upgrade to be grateful for, versus those who are existing Kobra 3 users who might interpret their earlier models as models that have a few hardware defects. Again, comment section please. I don't know how you feel, but I'm genuinely curious. And besides those things, it is nice to see that Anycubic has been hard at work in the exact places I hope they would be. So let's have a look at what's actually changed and what I've learned since the Kobra 3 originally came out. Well, first of all, setup is the same. This comes in a large box, so there's no frame assembly to do. You will need to unclip some cable ties and install some components. You'll need to install the hot end unit, for example, and this is easy because if you add just 2 screws in initially, you can hook it in over the retaining plate and then secure it in place with 4 extra screws. Then you just need to plug in and secure the USB-C cable in the top. The filament holder will also slide into place on the back, and the screen, that also needs installing, which is a little awkward but also straightforward. It was, however, a little disconcerting that by the end of my using it for review, just the vibrations from the machine itself had wiggled one of the screws loose. And you also need to install the filament boot for kicking plastic poop off the edge of the machine whilst it's purging. There's also the guide block for the filament PTFE tubes on the left-hand side. Now I'll come back to the multi-filament feed and the Ace Pro later, but for now, without this, you connect a single filament tube from this guide block to the hot end and you feed your filament through that. And you can't actually install the camera until you've printed the enclosure for it. So at this point, just boot up the machine and it does its own auto calibration for you. Now, once you do install the camera, you plug it into the front and tuck the cable underneath the printer, and then it sticks out the side. Now, I've said before in my last review, this isn't a tidy solution. Once you plug in the Ace Pro 2, you do end up with a bit of a nest of cables. The PEI plate is double-sided and it's guided into place by the notch on the back corner, and that's also where the machine houses a handy nozzle wiper. And I have to say, immediately from the first print I saw improvements from the last model, and I expect this is more from improvements to the material profiles, because first layer adhesion was solid across the plate with only a slight defect. I needed to really flex the printed sheet in order to actually see it. The onboard 15-minute benchy test came out just fine for a bed slinger. Honestly, overall, print quality on this has been fairly solid for the most part, although I did have one part fail on the plate during a print and I came down to string the next morning and the machine was still printing. So that suggests that AI detection did f*** all. Unfortunately, I don't have a clip of this because I didn't record it, expecting the time lapse would be fine, but still, as I said, can't get this thing to make time lapses. Now, the UI is so ridiculously simple, but it is a mild improvement when compared to what it was when I originally tested the Kobra 3. Yet, I simply cannot get over the use of alphanumeric keyboards on any modern hardware. Slicer-wise, we've got Anycubic's version of Orca, which is Anycubic Slicer Next. Now, this is fine, it's essentially the same as Orca, but it doesn't have as many up-to-date settings, and the front page exists to promote Maker Online, which is Anycubic's storefront for models, and it's just not as neatly curated as other online platforms. But look, the slicer works. For someone just looking to have a workable slicer and a workable printer, this'll do that. And I want to say that here because that's what this is. It's a working printer. Anycubic aren't leading the way in FDM, far from it. I don't think anyone's accusing them of that. They're creating products that do the job, and I would have thought the goal is a lower cost because that's the target audience here, the more budget conscious consumer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Look, here's a good analogy, I think. If you're going to buy a power drill, you're going to go to a hardware store, and many people out there are going to swear by Milwaukee or Makita and those sort of things being the best. But in relative terms, this is a Black & Decker, and that's okay. They exist, they sell, they work. Are they as good quality? No. But people still buy them. That's what you get in here. The bit I really need to talk about is the Ace Pro, the Anycubic Color Engine Pro. This is Anycubic's version of a multi-material unit, so you can print with multiple colors or materials with one nozzle on the printer. And as I said at the beginning of the video, there's a hub in the top of the print head, and I've got the 4-tube hub because I have one Ace in this combo. I presume the 2 Ace combo comes with the 8-hole hub. Now, as I said before, this plugs in at the front. The PTFE tubes come out the back of the Ace Pro into the holder in the side of the printer, then go straight up and over into the print head with a clip holding them all neatly together. And then you just mount your reels in. The Ace will automatically then feed them to the print head, and if you've got any of the newer Anycubic filaments, it'll even read the RFID tag and tell the printer what filament's installed. If you don't have the new stuff or you're using third-party materials, you can just use the UI to tell it manually, which is handy because then in the slicer you can synchronize those materials with the slicer and then automatically color things in or tell it what you want printed in what material. But that only works if you've got an Ace Pro connected. If you're just using a single reel of filament, you don't have access to this function, which I think is a bit unfortunate because that would still be handy even if you're only using one reel. Now, I've got to say, I love these units in general. I love that I don't have to manually fiddle to install filament by heating the nozzle, handballing it in and out and so on. This does it for me. And I'm also happy to see that despite the bug I had in my S1 review, here if you do run out of a reel of filament halfway through a print or snip it to pretend you did, the printer will continue printing by just moving on to the next reel automatically, so long as you've got two listed as the same material on the printer. But this is the bit I'm gonna have to say it, I need your help with this as a community, because I've only got mine that I can test. The call out feature of the Ace Pro is that it's got an integrated heater which runs off its own dedicated power supply, and the idea of this heater is that it will heat your filament to help dry it out, which that's exactly what I said in my Kobra 3 review. But here I actually printed out this little add-on so I could insert a hygrometer and monitor the humidity change. Oh, and I also learned it's hygrometer with a G. I've been calling these things hydrometers with a D for ages. But again, I never claimed to be a professional, just a hobbyist. Anyway, after taking some old filaments and leaving the heater on overnight for 8 hours, I expected to come down the next morning and see how much it had dropped by. And, it went up. Now, in fairness to a point, we are in the middle of a very humid summer here in the UK, but still, this shouldn't go up. Now, what I've learned, or more inferred from this, is something that actually makes a lot of sense in retrospect, because heating alone doesn't mean drying. Now, yeah, heating may cause the water or liquid or hydration-ness to come out of the plastic, but this is still a pretty sealed chamber, so the humidity mostly stays in the chamber, which could actually be partially why my hygrometer went up if more of that moisture is in the air. That's the word, moisture. But either way, unless I'm crazy or I've got a faulty one, if this is right, this device kind of slightly completely fails at the specific function it should perform. Or again, have I got a dodgy one? I mean, I know it's heating up because I could feel it on the chamber. I mean, I guess at least it's got space in the bottom for some desiccant and you can print out some boxes. There's numerous designs online so you can add more and that'll dry out the chamber a bit. But I'm genuinely sat here wondering now, if this is the case and it's not actually drying the filament, how has nobody noticed this before? Why does it seem like nobody else is talking about it and going a bit crazy about it? Which is why I think I must be wrong here. And to test it, I even pulled out another Ace Pro and tested it again overnight, and I had the same issue. Without desiccant, this wouldn't be any drier after 8 hours of heating. So I've got no choice. I have to ask you to share your feedback, and I will, please, if you're watching this thinking, oh, that's terrible, I haven't concluded on it yet. I will update the video description if I can figure out what the hell is happening to me here, or am I right? I genuinely don't know. I need your feedback. Without desiccant in here, does this actually dry filament out? If so, how? But anyway, regardless of that, this is still a working machine, and with it I printed the first of these hammer props you're going to see a lot of in my videos going forward. These are from the Eternal Forge on Kickstarter, and I pledged for these myself. This isn't sponsored. And what I love about these, the reason I want to talk about them more than most other models, is not only the look, which I think is cool, and how sturdy they are, but also how well the design has actually been considered by the creator, because each part will print on a 150 by 150mm printer and without any supports at all. You even put it together without any screws, bolts, fixings or plastic welding. The screws, threads and clips are all part of the model. And I think when creators put this much effort into a design, yeah, I'm going to champion the heck out of them, because let's be fair, nobody enjoys plastic welding. And I'll leave a link in the description. This is one of 9 designs and I think they're all amazing. Again, not sponsored, just cool. Right, this printer. Look, I think we all know this. This isn't a hot take. Anycubic is a budget brand when it comes to FDM, as I've said. I know many of you watching this will have one and you'll love it, but I also know many of you will have had one and hate it so much you'll never touch an Anycubic machine again. And here's the thing, you're both right. Now, unfortunately, when I say a budget brand, the price here doesn't quite reflect that, because there are what I would consider to be better built machines on the market at a similar price and cheaper. And never before have I actually had a live example of why, other than, yeah, like here, the movement of the machine started to rattle a screw out. So when I say budget, I guess I really mean cheap. But at the same time, it's not cheap. that's what this is. The printer works, print's fine. But anyway, look, I want to know how existing Kobra 3 users feel about this release too, because when I said in my last Kobra 3 video, I hope we don't see a Kobra 4 in a few months, well, I did kind of mean this too. I hope the Kobra 3 would be supported for a while, and it has been. The software and profile updates have been nice, but with the change to this new nozzle style, does that mean we expect the old ones to just become abandonware before long? Because that is what past FDM Anycubic has kind of taught us they'll do. I just don't know. So whilst, yeah, it's great to see improvements, and this is a working machine with prints that, well, they're not as good, but they are still comparable to much more expensive Core XY printers I've tested. At least it was when it was new out of the box. This also feels like a bit of a, oops, the Kobra 3 hardware wasn't great, so we fixed some of it. Yet on the software side, there's still a bit of a way to go. If somebody asked me to rate this out of 10, I'd say, yeah, it's alright. So again, if you have one, what do you think? Do you have a Kobra 3? How are you getting on with it? Please let me know in the comments, because new users will use your real user feedback, probably more than mine, in order to help them decide either way. If you do decide to get this printer, and if the video or the community in the comment section helped you learn what to expect, I would appreciate you using my affiliate links in the description before you make a purchase. And yes, I'll make a commission. That's at no further cost to you. I want to say thanks for watching, with a huge thanks going to our members who are on screen now. Please consider joining them to get your name in lights along with early access and exclusive videos. Until next time, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. FauxHammer in? Out.